As of last Sunday, this channel is now 1 year old. Over the past 12 months, through these 10 video essays, I've published a total of 57 pages of free D&D content, solving all kinds of things about D&D, from legendary resistances to vehicle combat. So what's next? Am I running out of things to fix? Have I finally realized that it's probably not viable to work full-time for 2 months on a video that's only going to make me about $100? Well, no, but to understand why, we're gonna have to talk about my plans for this channel. Oh, actually, that game changer thing? I kind of forgot when I started this channel that there was a YouTube show with millions of fans that had the same name. So yeah, roll the new intro. This channel has a big problem. See, about 2 years ago I hatched an evil scheme. I would make third-party D&D books and sell them on Kickstarter, and then I would take all of the ideas I had that didn't really lend themselves well to being presented in a book format, like an online encounter simulator, for example, and I would put those on YouTube to tell people that I exist. That way I could convince maybe 100 people or so that the stuff I make isn't complete crap, and then people would buy my books and I would make at least $20. Clearly, this was a flawless plan. It was only a matter of time before I would topple Big Roleplay and seize the means of challenge raising. Unfortunately, I failed, as all great villains do, to include one crucial variable in my evil scheme: the fact that this channel would kind of blow up, and that your support throughout this year would motivate me to put even more effort into this YouTube channel. And so I did that, instead of, finishing that book that was supposed to keep a roof over my head. So yeah, this channel has a big problem, and it's me. I'm the problem. A year ago, I had planned for this video that you're watching right now to be the one where I would announce my book. But right now, I just don't have a book that's in a state where I would be comfortable putting on Kickstarter. And every time I open that manuscript, I feel guilty because I should be much further along than I am. And every time I open YouTube, I feel great because this channel is much further along than I ever thought it could go. So I think I need to come up with a new evil scheme, a new project to sink my teeth into and be passionate about. Remember when I said I released 57 pages of free D&D content last year? Well, I am going to put out as much free content in this one video as I did this entire past year. But what I am about to release today is only a very early draft of what I want to do. I've only ran a couple playtests with it so far, and I've got pages and pages of notes about things that need to change, big and small. But what's important is that at least until we get to version 1.0, I will be doing game dev streams for this new project, at least once per week. I'll still need the other 6 days of the week so I can make my regular videos about how to run the game, because I'm having way too much fun making them. But by committing to this regular schedule instead of waiting until what I'm working on is finished, I'm basically just holding myself accountable so that I don't repeat the mistake I've made with my last project and I actually make some progress on this new thing. So if you'd like to hang out, see the sausage being made, ask some questions about game design, maybe get some of your homebrew stuff reviewed, I've just added a couple more roles to my Discord server. By default, when you join, you'll only get 1 ping for each new video essay, so about once per month. But now you can opt in to be notified whenever I go live, whenever I upload a YouTube short, or whenever I publish an update for this new project. But what is this mysterious new project? This is Flarefall. It's a whole new tabletop RPG. Oh yeah, the Flying Eyeball guy did Flying Eyeball guy things again. In Flarefall, you play as scavengers in the ruins of what used to be a sci-fi world, until most of the technology was fried by a massive solar flare, and humanity was suddenly sent back to the Stone Age, with the only difference being that there's a few robots and laser rifles that still work, and whoever finds them is usually better off than those who don't. And not only that, but the flare also messed with the Earth's magnetic field, causing it to start flipping. That means for the next couple thousand years, going outside during the day without protection will make you sick, and as a bonus, it also caused a bunch of volcanoes to erupt, covering the sky with ash, soot, and acid rain. So it's been winter ever since the solar flare, 15 years ago. But your character did survive somehow. And you weren't alone. Sometimes you help the people around you, sometimes they help you. But now it's up to you and survivors like you to rebuild this world, since basically a blank slate now. Will you try to repair what's broken or create something new? Now, full disclosure, if you're watching this video in a couple of weeks after I've released it, you will not be able to play this game today. Mostly because right now there are no resources for the GM, or the plot twister, as I call them. Not even a small bestiary so you can run a playtest. I'm still working on that, but it will take some time. But you can start playing around and creating a player character Roll20, because yes, this website isn't just a fancy PDF with the rules and the setting primer on it, it also has a fully integrated character sheet with a character builder that shows you all of the options you can pick from. It also has a dice roller, a bunch of nested tooltips like those from Baldur's Gate 3 because those are really cool, and a whole lot more. It's basically D&D Beyond. I've made D&D Beyond in a month, except with maglev trains and holograms instead of dragons. And this website will only get more and more features as the time goes on. You can check out the Trello for this project, it's also in the video description if you're curious about the features I want to add. Now, you might be curious, how does this play? Does it use dice pools, playbooks, aspects? Does it bring anything new to the table? And if I haven't lost you already with that last question, I definitely will by giving you the same disclaimer you've probably received from basically every single game designer on YouTube. This is a very early version of the game, meaning virtually everything is subject to change. I even have a warning on the website that tells you I'm not even sure items will be in the final game. But for now at least, if you know how to play or run D&D, you definitely won't be lost here. You've got tactical turn-based combat, and for out-of-combat stuff, it's mostly rules light. I won't go too deep into the details because I want to keep this video short and sweet, but this is a game design channel, so you knew what you signed up for. So I'll use this opportunity to go on an old man rant, introduce you to a model which game designers like to use when they want to describe what a game is about. It's a little thing designed by Robin Huenick, Marc Leblanc, and Robert Zubek called the MDA Framework, which stands for Mechanics, Dynamics, and Aesthetics. The idea is that a game is made of mechanics, so how the pieces move in chess, for example. Those mechanics encourage some behaviors from the players and discourage others. And those are the dynamics of the game, how it is played. So for chess, it would be how the players tend to value their queen more than their bishop, for example. It's not a rule of the game that you have to value your queen more, but you probably won't have a good time if you don't. And those dynamics can create different flavors of fun. For example, chess is fun because it's challenging, whereas something like Hi-Fi Rush has some challenge, sure, but you mostly play it because of how great it feels when you're in the zone. As a designer, I only have control over the mechanics of the game, but to a player, what matters is the aesthetics, what kind of fun they're having. To a player, that is what the game is about, not that. So my job is to make sure I put in the right mechanics to create the right dynamics, to hopefully have it all come together in a way that fits the target aesthetic. In fact, if you've watched some of my other videos, most of the fixes I bring to 5e are about this. Whether it's my video on vehicles, or the one on mass combat, or the one on stealth, pretty much all of my fixes are about identifying the fact that D&D, and tabletop RPGs in general, value character expression a lot. So I pick a mechanic which stifles character expression, and I replace it with one that doesn't. That's the entire video. You don't need me anymore, I have given you the secret sauce that works every time. So what is Flarefall about? Well, let's talk about what D&D is about first so we have a point of comparison. Sensation. I mean, sure, it's fun when the math rocks go clickety-clack, but it's not the main appeal for most people. So I'll put it around here-ish. Fantasy and narrative. Well, yeah, those are definitely important. Unless you play OSR, I guess, but I don't. Challenge. Well, there is always a risk of death, sure, but 5e specifically goes out of its way to make the difference between an experienced player and a new player as small as possible. That accessibility, at least on the player's side, is one of the reasons 5e got so popular after all. In general, they don't really want you to even have the ability to make bad decisions. And even if you've been playing D&D since 2nd edition, you're still probably gonna take a bunch of damage if you fight a red dragon. So challenge should probably be around there. Fellowship, also known as playing with friends around a pizza. Yeah. Discovery. I mean, that one depends from table to table. It's probably not the most important type of fun for D&D, but it's definitely above challenge, at least for me. Expression. Well, you've just heard me go on a rant about why I think this one is probably the most important to players, so whoop. And finally, submission, which is usually for games about farming. No, not that type. Yeah, that one. Or, in other words, getting rewarded for the time you invest in a game. That's kind of how leveling up works in D&D, but for a game we can only play a couple hours per week, that's probably not the main appeal. So that's what it looks like for D&D, at least in my opinion. With that in mind, what does it look like for Flarefall? Well, this. It's mostly the same flavor of game as 5e, with the exception that challenges will be a whole lot more fun. The way I like to describe it to my players is that it's a bit like in The Witcher, Zelda or Dark Souls. In those games, it's possible to go through a boss fight without taking a single point of damage if you play well enough, but it's difficult and you're definitely not going to get it right every single time. With these games, the fun of combat is, at least in part, because story still matters, in slowly figuring out what the perfect play is, because that perfect play is going to look different for every single fight based on a bunch of different parameters like the terrain, what the bad guys can do, etc. Sometimes it's even going to change throughout a single encounter. But when you do manage to figure it out and you come up with a good plan and execute it properly, probably after discovering all of the bad plans you could possibly make by checking them out with your face, it feels like you're the best Witcher this side of the Yaruga, the smartest and most heroic hero of all time. And then 2 rooms later, you die to a slightly bigger than average bee. That's the feeling I want to create with this game. And I don't really care whether I use a d20 or a dice pool or playbooks or aspects to get there, so long as we get there in the end. I'm not sacrificing any of the roleplay stuff that got me into tabletop in the first place. I think you can be greedy and have that and the challenge, but that feeling of mastery is the one I want to bring to the world of tabletop RPGs, and I think is missing right now. So if that goal sounds cool to you, tune into my streams and come watch me fumble and try a million different ways to create that experience where most of the things I try will inevitably end up failing miserably. One last thing I want to mention. Me making a new system has absolutely nothing to do with the whole OGL nonsense from last year. Don't get me wrong, it sucked, especially for third-party publishers like me, but for the most part, whether it's Stockholm Syndrome or just an obvious abundance of good taste, I still like 5e. It is still, to this day, my system of choice when I want to run fantasy. But sometimes, my players and I don't want to do fantasy. Sometimes we want to protect a greenhouse from some raiders in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And this system is actually almost 3 years old now. The only thing that's new is that now I have given myself an excuse to actually put some effort into it. So instead of a crappy D&D clone where I just took out the spells and added a bunch of guns and just added action points because I liked the concept, I can give it the love it needs. Come up with tailor-made mechanics that support the post-apocalyptic sci-fi themes. I can make a full website with the kind of features I would honestly never bother with if it was only for my table. But this OGL nonsense did encourage a bunch of third-party creators to start creating new games, and sometimes testing those games can be difficult, especially if, like me, your players are spread all over the country and you mostly play online. So I thought I would share a little tool I've made that's helped me playtest Flareful for the past 3 years. This is Atom 20. It's a Chrome extension and I'll probably do Firefox version later. And what it does is that if you have a Google Sheet that is configured just right, and you also have a tab open on Roll20, it links the two together. So if you have a character sheet that looks like this, and I click here, my boy Nounours will roll luck on Roll20. And it will be visible to everyone. And if I update Nounours's hit points, it updates his life bar on Roll20 as well. You can also use this extension to set up a bestiary with a bunch of monster stat blocks for the Game Master. This is currently how I'm running my playtest for Flareful, since the website doesn't have a bestiary yet. So if you or someone you love decided that they should make a new tabletop RPG last year, first of all, I am sorry for all the debates you're gonna have to hear about dice resolution mechanics. Second of all, you can check out this extension. It will probably help you iterate a whole lot faster. That's it for today's video. Special thanks to my YouTube members, Blake Richardson, Matt CG, Michael3Mod, DM Charlie and Pogus for their help in keeping the lights on. Members get a private channel on my Discord server, they get my videos 2 days early, and whenever Flareful actually reaches a state where I'm comfortable asking people to pay for it, which is probably not going to be for a good long while, members will get a discount on it depending on how long they've been a YouTube member for. If you want more videos from me, here's my favorite video from last year, the one about how to design a good world map. Or you could watch this video, which YouTube promises me you haven't watched yet. Until next time, here's to another year of videos about game design.